My name is Ali, I'm a doctor and YouTuber,
I'm Taymor, I'm a data scientist and writer,
and you're listening to Not Overthinking.
the weekly podcast where we think about happiness, creativity, and the human condition.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Not Overthinking. Taymor, how are you doing today?
I'm not doing too badly. Unfortunately, it's hay fever season now, so this week's been a bit rough on certain days.
I feel like we've been saying this for the last 4 episodes that, sorry lads, I've got a bit of a cough.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't feel
got a
like
bit of
I've fully recovered from about a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced I've got TB of some sort because of the cough.
Nice. How's your week been?
It's been all right, pretty good. What have I done? I actually took 2 days off work because I was ill.
Oh.
And I wanted to be super productive at home during those 2 days, but I ended up kind of lying in bed for the most part and wallowing in self-pity. So
That's always fun.
yeah, it's good. It's good once in a while, just to have a complete write-off day.
Yeah, as per your last email newsletter.
No, it was more like 10 issues ago, Tape.
Oh, sorry, 10
It's almost
issues
as if
ago.
you don't read my email newsletters. God. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today?
All right, here's something I've been thinking about, and I've had I guess a lot of my friends are sort of mid to late 20s, and a lot of them are around
And male, right?
and male. Yeah,
Okay,
Thanks
fine.
for pointing that out. And a lot of them are around the age where they're starting to seriously consider, maybe I'd like to settle down with someone, find a life partner.
Are we talking about relationships? Yes.
No, not massively actually.
Damn, I'm so disappointed.
But one common thing that people say in these conversations is that it's some variant of the following. It's I don't want someone who just has a 9 to 5 and then watches Netflix in the evenings. I want someone who is ambitious. This comes up all the time amongst sort of people around my age, and I suspect you might have even said some variant of this.
Yeah, I probably have
at
at some
some
point. Yeah.
And I find this deeply problematic.
Deeply problematic.
Deeply
Why do you find this deeply problematic?
I think the thing I take issue with, I think I take issue with the fact, I take issue with this idea of ambition. Ambition is a word that's sort of thrown around quite a lot as a virtue. It's like one of a good thing to be. Oh man, this person is so ambitious. I wish I was more ambitious. All this kind of stuff. It's seen as a virtue, right? Now, my first issue with the whole thing about I'm looking for someone who is ambitious is that someone else's ambition doesn't really do anything for you. Okay, let's use you as an example. Maybe one day you want to settle down with a nice girl or a nice boy. And let's say you think, I want someone who's really ambitious. What would this actually do for you? Their ambition, I don't see how it helps the relationship or you specifically in the relationship. My main issue with it there is that, you're almost saying that you like them more because they're ambitious, and if they were less ambitious, you would like them less.
Okay, no. So the easy counter to this is that it's generally good for an individual's self-development if their friends are quote ambitious, right? Like if you have friends, if you're surrounded by friends who all want to quote unquote do big things, however you might want to define that, that is going to rub off onto you in a non-weird way, and you're going to then also want to do big things. If you're surrounded by people who are keen about, leading a healthy lifestyle, going to the gym regularly, eating well, etc., it's just going to naturally encourage you to do the same. If you're surrounded by friends who, no judgment here, instead prefer to order pizza every night and play World of Warcraft, don't worry, that was me several years ago, and that's fine, but it probably won't really help you in terms of personal development if that's not the sort of lifestyle you want to lead. Therefore, surely it makes sense to say that, I'm looking for ambition in a partner because then in a way you can both grow together.
Okay, yeah, and I'm happy to accept this. And this is a point that comes up in these conversations where the other person will say this, and I'll say, yes, I'm actually happy to acceect that.
Okay, it sounds like you were fully expecting this line of argument.
Absolutely.
Okay,
but
fine.
I think it should be said.
Yeah, sure.
I guess it's important for lifestyles to be aligned, just so that day to day it's kind of easier to do the things that you both care about. So this is about lifestyle alignment, right?
In a way, lifestyle alignment and also self-improvement.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I think that there's maybe one small issue with that, in that ambition is sort of a very broad term. And let's say your partner wants to be the best in the world at chess. Many would say that's an ambitious goal.
It is.
And you want to be, I don't know, but you're really into gymming and fitness and stuff. You want to do all that kind of thing.
I'm into Jamaican fitness.
Gymming
Gymming.
and fitness.
Gymming and fitness.
Maybe Jamaican fitness, whatever that might be.
Why not? #Fitstagram.
So in that case, I think people would still see it as a good thing that the potential partner is ambitious, even though it's sort of ambitious in a way that's basically completely independent of your own ambitions.
Sure.
So the lifestyle alignment, it doesn't affect lifestyle alignment there.
Sure, but I mean, when when push comes to shove, I don't think it is lifestyle alignment that people are seeking in this partner. I think it's more the self-improvement aspect of it, and more the fact that this is someone who will encourage me to be better because they are ambitious by themselves.
Okay.
As opposed to, the sorts of things that make them ambitious mean that they're going to sit down poring over chess games and playing against themselves on a board. It's not really about lifestyle alignment.
But the earlier point you made was about lifestyle alignment. It was about, if I want to be healthy and my partner's ordering pizza every night, that's lifestyle alignment. That was the point.
No, it's lifestyle. It's actually self-improvement, just from the veneer of lifestyle alignment, from the angle of lifestyle alignment.
Okay, so it's like my partner generally has an attitude of wanting to improve themselves in
whatever realm.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's going to rub off onto me in a non-weird way.
Okay. So you'd like for your partner to rub off on you
in a non-weird way.
In a non-weird way.
Yes. Perhaps in a weird way as well.
Okay, cool. Let's now get to the real issue, which is, what the hell does ambition mean? All right, let me give you some examples.
Okay, right.
Okay, I guess my core thesis here is that ambition and our ideas about ambition are deeply misguided. So, for example, if someone, I think chess is a good example. So if someone's really, really into chess, they want to get really good at chess, they want to be best in the world at chess, whatever, that would be seen as a very virtuous thing. And most people who try to do this don't get there. Most people who try to do this, they spend a lot of their teenage years and stuff getting really into chess. Some of them start to make it into the upper echelons of grandmastership and so on. Most people don't make it, but a lot of people try to get really good at things like chess.
Okay, sure.
And if some kid is trying to get really good at chess, most people see that as a positive thing. It's like, oh, nice, chess is this thing that is good.
Yes.
And this kid is trying to do it, so good on them. Whereas if the same kid is trying to get really good at World of Warcraft or whatever, it's like, wow, this kid is wasting his life playing online video games.
I don't know. I think you're perhaps misrepresenting the online gaming thing these days. I think these days most people will be like, this guy's trying to get pro at Fortnite. I mean, hopefully now in this day and age, people would see that as a viable strat.
I agree. In this day and age, people would see that as a viable strat. But I think, even rewind 10 years or something, kid playing games would be seen sort of by other people as like, oh man, this guy's wasting his time. Whereas kid playing chess, equally pointless, let's be very honest. In fact, probably more pointless because it's less social than online video games. Kid playing chess is like, oh yeah, good for them.
Okay.
And arguably,
someone doing figure skating can also be seen as an equally pointless activity. Like, to become best in the world at any arts thing or at any sport or anything you could brand all these things as being pointless.
Precisely. And I'm glad we've gone to this point. And there's a very good podcast episode. I think it is a guy called Toby Luedtke, who's the founder of a company called Shopify, a very big e-commerce company in Canada. He is on Shane Parrish's The Knowledge Project podcast. And he talks about, he's now a successful kind of guy, and all his friends who have kids and stuff, they always come to him and they say, hey, Toby, you're really successful and productive. How do I stop my kid playing video games? And he says he gets lots of people asking him this. He never gets anyone asking him, hey, Toby, how do I get my kid to stop playing chess or stop doing figure skating? He doesn't get that. And my point here is that a lot of these things that we see as ambitious are really just society placing value on things arbitrarily.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree.
Like being able to move pieces on a board or being able to dance on ice. These are very arbitrary things to be placing value on.
Sure.
And so I think when we think about ambition, it's really very intertwined with society's arbitrary decisions on what is valuable and what is not.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, good. Right, where are we going next with this?
So this all started with this relationship thing where you took beef with the fact that your friends said, yeah, if I'm considering someone to be in a relationship with, I kind of want someone who's ambitious.
Yeah.
And you branded that as deeply problematic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think ambition as an idea in the way that it's normally talked about is problematic. Firstly, because it's very arbitrary. It's just what this society at this particular point in time happens to value. As well as that, I think it's also problematic because the idea of ambition is very much, it's focused on the outward achievements. And these outward achievements are always relative to other people. So it's focused on zero-sum games where it's like one person wants to be the best and you can only be the best at the expense of someone else not being the best. Ambition is really, really centered around zero-sum games in general, where like the thing you're doing is good because you're doing it better than other people. It's about the outward achievement of being better than other people in some way.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think it's pretty ambitious to set yourself a goal of starting your own company, even, most of society would consider starting your own company is pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
They wouldn't say that your company has to be number one on the S&P 500.
Yeah. Look. I'm not saying every possible definition, every possible thing that counts as ambitious is like this. I'm saying a lot of things that count as ambitious because society values arbitrary things, and a lot of things count as ambitious because they are zero-sum games that you play with people. For example, chess. And now one of the more fun discussions I had about this was with a friend who said, one of the things he really liked about his previous partner was that she was just really into reading. She just loved books, loved reading books of all sorts, and had like rooms in the house full of books that, she just loved to read. And her ideal day would be sitting and reading a book. That struck me as a little strange, right? Because books are one of these things that are seen as very virtuous. And yes, I'm sure you can make a very good argument that books, for example, like reading lots of books is probably more useful than watching lots of TV. I'm happy to sort of accept that. And so then I kind of pushed back on him about this book thing. And I said, okay, so she really liked reading lots of books. You really like this about her. Now, what if the thing she was really into was, let's say, gardening? She just was super into gardening. She liked tending the garden. She had no desire to enter gardening contests, enter the Chelsea Flower Show. She didn't care about any of that. She didn't care about writing about gardening or doing anything with any outward sense of gardening achievement. She just cared about the process of gardening, and her ideal day would be in the garden, plucking at weeds, sowing seeds, watering the plants, living a gardener's life.
Sowing seeds.
And I asked him, how would you felt about that? And he was very honest with me, and he said, yeah, I'd prefer the books thing to that, quite significantly. And he didn't really have a very good answer. And he actually admitted that, that's weird, isn't it? Like, there's really no difference between these two things. You could argue that the person reading lots of books is like intelligent and, more knowledgeable about stuff, but like, come on. So my point here is the person who spends their time gardening would not be seen as ambitious, and that would be seen as kind of a neutral at best thing that for them to be into. Whereas the person who spends their time doing one of these other activities, like zero-sum games, trying to be better than other people at certain things, will be seen as ambitious, and that will be seen as a positive thing.
Okay, sure. And if that person into gardening was then suddenly starting to enter gardening competitions, then suddenly that would lend credence to... check you out. You go, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can say that.
I think the idea of ambition is, in the way that we normally think about it, is misguided because it's based on arbitrary things that society values, and it's often based on zero-sum games that we're sort of encouraging people to play, which I don't think are productive or helpful. Okay,
so ultimately you're pushing back against people who say they're looking for ambition as a virtue in a partner or in a friend or whatever.
Yes, I'm actually pushing back on ambition as a virtue in general, rather than what? For something in a spouse.
What's the alternative?
Here it is. The only thing that matters, right, is to be living your life fully intentionally in both the short and the long term, right? And the only and in my opinion, the only thing that matters in a spouse or whatever, aside from some lifestyle alignment and a few other things that you might care about, I think the thing to be looking for is that they are living their life intentionally in the short and the long term. And if for one person living life fully intentionally means that they want to tend the garden all day. And, they're not doing this to an extent where it misaligns lifestyles. Like, they're also, like, socializing with, other people and so on. If someone truly wants to be tending their garden, great for them. If someone truly wants to be playing chess, great for them. If someone truly wants to be reading books, great for them. If someone truly wants to have a 9-to-5 job that they don't care about and then watch Netflix in the evening, great for them.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
Controversial. Okay, I'm going to push back against this. So you're saying that we should completely scrap this notion of ambition and replace it with this kind of postmodern stuff of anything goes as long as you're happy.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. And I would argue that, okay, yeah, fair enough. We're not here to pass judgment on anyone else. But when it comes to choosing a life partner, someone that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, surely it's reasonable for me to say that, hey, look, I'd kind of prefer it if my life partner was someone who was, for example, contributing value to the world in some way or another, rather than doing the insular activity of just tending their own garden, or rather than doing the insular activity of just reading lots and lots of books and not producing anything. Sure, if they're reading lots of books with the intent to write stuff and produce good stuff into the world, surely that would be better than the insular alternative.
Yeah. So look, I agree. I think Okay, yeah. Actually, when I've had this discussion with people, a lot of people say this thing about like, it's not just about living intentionally. It's about living intentionally and providing value to other people. And I think that's great. I think that's really good. And I think, I can understand where you're coming from. Personally, I feel like, no one asked to be put on this planet. I feel like, just living in society and like going about the day to day, you do contribute to society, for example, in your sort of relationships with other people, if you have a job, if you're contributing to the economy. I think it's a high bar to say that everyone should be doing some making some outsized contribution to society.
No one is saying that everyone should be making some outside contribution to society. What people are saying is that if I'm looking for a life partner, all other things being equal, I would prefer if someone were to be making some kind of contribution to society rather than not doing that.
Yeah. No,
there's no judgment on these people. You're saying this is what I would personally prefer.
I can get on board with that.
Okay.
However, from the conversations I've had, I don't know if this is true for you. I don't know if we've had this conversation. From the conversations I've had, it seems like when people are talking about ambition and things like that, they're really not thinking that, I want a life partner who is living intentionally and providing value to society. They are really, it's not going that deep. It's really thinking of the outward, like, oh, ambition is cool, achievement is cool. I want that,
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't imagine many people would have actually thought and figured out what they mean by an ambitious partner.
Right.
And whether you replace any ambition with watching Netflix all day, whether that still holds true and why that doesn't hold true and all this stuff about intentional living. I doubt many people have thought that when you've had this conversation with them. But yeah, I agree that this thing of I'm looking for an ambitious partner is a cliche that people like to use as a classic mental model. But, I don't personally see that as a bad thing. I think it is important that people, when any of us are trying to make these hypothetical lists of the sort of things that we're looking for in a life partner, we actually examine how we're going to define these different terms, like ambition or, I don't know, what's another, like confident, funny. I mean, what does that really mean? I think it's useful to be able to actively define these terms because we, kind of going back to our discussions we've had in the past about the limitations of language and how language shapes our realities. Having the vocabulary of I'm looking for someone who's confident, funny, charismatic, and ambitious automatically has so many assumptions baked into it that you really want to be kind of questioning all of those things to actually work out whether that is really what you want and how you're defining those. But
yeah, and look, I think the point I'm trying to make here is that the society we live in is this invisible force that sort of corrupts our thoughts. And, I think it's really worthwhile to try and figure out the ways in which it is doing that and trying to undo those. For example, I'm reading this book about the Wright Brothers right now, right? The guys who invented air travel. And one of the things that really stands out about this book is that, in the very early days, everyone thought these guys were absolutely insane. These two dudes, they didn't go to university or anything like that, read a bunch of books, they're like, okay, we're going to fly. And they might have been described as ambitious, but at the time it was more often described as these guys are nutters, these guys are nutcases, And at the time, obviously what they've done is extremely ambitious. What they've done is one of the crowning achievements of humanity. They've achieved human flight. At the time, the society thought they were weird and didn't value what they were doing, And I suspect there are plenty of those kinds of things going on today where people are doing things that on the face of it seem extremely weird and are like, well, these guys are insane. What the hell are they doing? And if we sort of limit ourselves to looking at things through the lens of what society values, which is like these kind of weird notions related to ambition, then you kind of miss out on a lot of the other stuff. Whereas if you look through the lens of intentionality, the Wright brothers were living life with unbelievable intentionality. Like even once they started to achieve success, once they had like test flights and people watching the test flights, the fact that, other people would be like, oh yeah, do it again or whatever. Or like other people sort of egg them on to kind of do tricks or things like that. That had no bearing on what they were doing at all. They were living fully intentionally, fully independently of what other people wanted them to do.
I mean, I don't see how this lends anything to your point about ambition, because if the Wright brothers were to have told people that, yeah, we're trying to achieve human flight, that's a pretty ambitious goal. If I were to try and, if I got together with some physics buddies and, our goal was to achieve teleportation, that's a pretty ambitious goal, even though people are going to say we're weird.
My point regarding the Wright brothers was not necessarily related to ambition and more related to the fact that I think it's incredibly valuable to try and understand the sort of that we're sort of seeing everything through the lens of the society that we live in, and that is not necessarily the best lens with which to view things.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with that. In fact, I think anytime anyone uses the word weird, I automatically get this like, like, oh, there's like internal cringy trigger thing. Because the word weird is just such a profound reflection of how that person has been shaped by society.
Yeah.
That it all means absolutely nothing to the person that they're passing the judgment on. Weird.
But weird is good. So yeah, I think that was the main point I wanted to make, that I think I don't like this idea of ambition. I mean, look, this is linked to, I think, other discussions we've had, maybe on this podcast, but definitely outside of the podcast, about valuing other human beings based on external attributes about them, for example, their ambition or their achievements and things, which is, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me, but I understand that, like, pragmatically, it's fine to use that.
There's always going to be some sort of evaluation algorithm that's going on when you're trying to choose a life partner.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. Should we turn to Instagram and see if anyone has said anything? Do you want to have a look? How many? So we started with like 109 viewers. How many do we still have?
19.
19? Oh, that's not bad. Thank you to the 19 people who've stuck with us.
All right. It's mostly people saying hi. One chap has said, "I'm very bored. Can anyone chat with me in private?"
So I suppose if we were to summarize, like, what is the point of having had this discussion? I suppose what you're saying is that we should think a little bit harder before using terms like, before using phrases like, I want someone who is ambitious, because we should recognize that that word has a lot of societal baggage associated with it. Yeah. And what really matters is kind of more the fact that they're living intentionally. But I suppose I'm arguing that actually ambition is a virtue, provided we can understand all of the, societal baggage that comes with it.
No. You're saying living intentionally while adding value to other people's lives is a virtue. You're not saying ambition is a virtue.
No, I'm saying living, that and the surrogate term for that is ambition.
Oh, no, man, I disagree. So much of what's considered ambitious is, adds questionable value to other people's lives. For example, getting really good at playing chess, very ambitious, not hugely valuable to society. And find there's some value of like entertainment value in watching sports and stuff. Fine. But for example, people dedicating their whole lives to running 0.001 seconds faster than Usain Bolt, not hugely valuable, all right?
Okay, no, fine.
So much of ambition, and equally, all right? Trying to, a lot of other things that are considered ambitious are all to do with prestige. It's about like getting top grades, great university, getting a job which is traditionally considered prestigious or whatever. Like, I don't know, working at, go on.
Okay, fine. So I misspoke. Perhaps ambition is not the same thing as living intentionally and adding value.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer that living intentionally and adding value is going to be a virtue. But I think ambition is also a virtue, even as defined by these kind of competitive zero-sum game, whatever we want to call it, terms.
Why?
Because if I were looking for a life partner, someone who...
No. Let's forget the life partner thing. Fine, I understand. Yeah, that has some extra sort of bells and whistles that kind of changes the situation. But I would like for you to say that ambition is not a virtue.
In humans in general.
As a general thing, ambition is not the virtue. If you do think ambition is a virtue, what you're really, I hope, getting at is that living intentionally while adding value to other people's lives. That's the virtue. All the other components of ambition are not virtuous.
Okay, actually, I think ambition itself, fine. Ambition itself is not a virtue.
Boom.
But...
Bingo.
But being ambitious leads to a lot of other things which are virtuous. For example, even something pointless, like trying to become best in the world at chess, leads to developing critical thinking, logical thinking, perseverance, dedication, practice, self-improvement. There's so much that goes into it that the word ambition, doesn't quite cover. But, and therefore someone who is ambitious in whatever regard, whether it is trying to become best in the world at basket weaving or whatever it is going to ultimately have knock-on effects on the rest of their life. And that would be a virtue, provided they're not kind of maladapting and are not letting other important bits of their life fall by the wayside. But at that point, we're getting into a discussion about judging people based on what they choose to do with their time, which, as we agree, is not really, a useful activity.
Maybe we're using the word virtue differently, but then you're saying that doing things that are traditionally considered ambitious has positive externalities in that maybe you'll be really healthy if you're trying to be Usain Bolt. Fine. There are positive externalities, sure. But ambition is not the virtue. Just say that. Say that.
How are you defining virtue? As like a good thing?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, of course ambition is a virtue. Like ambition results in all of the greatest human inventions. The Wright Brothers were ambitious in wanting to achieve human flight. You probably wouldn't say that that's not a virtue. That actually these guys were net neutral. Ambition is a virtue, regardless of how it's defined by society. And yeah, sure, there are some elements that society might see as ambitious. For example, trying to become best in the world at basket weaving. You might reasonably argue that, okay, well, what's virtuous about that? What's virtuous about trying to become best in the world at, University Challenge? What's virtuous about trying to become best in the world at Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? There's a lot of these seemingly pointless things, but yeah, fair enough. I think it's less to do with the ambition and more to do with what that ambition is directed towards. Becoming best in the world at torturing people in Guantanamo Bay, for example, it probably isn't a virtue, but that's not the problem with ambition. It's a problem with the implementation of the ambition.
Okay, and my whole point here has been that the implementation of ambition, because of the way we think about ambition generally, it has a bad implementation.
Agreed. Yeah, the way we think about ambition generally. No, actually, I don't know. I think when people are saying, I want someone who's ambitious, they probably don't mean I want someone who wants to become best in the world at torturing people.
Yes.
There is an implicit thing there that the ambition is being applied to productive things rather than actively unproductive things like becoming best in the world at torturing people.
No, look, we've been through this. Productive is it's not really about, people are not thinking about the value to society because of examples like chess and examples like wanting to get a prestigious job just because or whatever, And I think this idea about ambition kind of, I think there's a trap of I want to be, if ambition is seen as this really positive thing, there's this trap that, okay, you hear people saying that ambition is good. And you're like, oh, cool. I better be ambitious. All right, what should I do? And then it's like, oh, cool. I guess I should try and be the best at this or whatever, or get this particular job because it's really hard to get. And that makes it ambitious and I should do that.
Okay,
I think that's a trap.
No, yeah, fine. I agree. And actually, I think when I think of the word ambitious as being a virtue, I'm also thinking that, okay, it kind of depends on what your goals are. Like if your ambition is to live a happy and fulfilled life and be a part-time general practitioner with 3 kids on the side that you're raising well, fine. That's a great ambition to have. Even though with your definition of ambitious, that's probably not what some people mean by the word ambitious.
No, precisely what you said is you agreed with me. You said the definition of ambitious that I use is that you are living intentionally, basically. If your ambition is to, have a part-time job and support your family, and hang out.
No, I mean, I think happiness and fulfillment is a good ambition to have.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
And therefore, being ambitious in that particular domain is a virtue. Being ambitious in the domain of being better at torturing people is not a virtue.
Okay, fine.
It's not a problem with ambition. It's a problem with the implementation. But yeah, I know. I take your point that normally when we say ambitious, we should probably start think a little bit harder about it. But that just ties into the general broader point of whenever we use any term to describe almost anything, we should think about what that term actually means and how much of it is societal baggage versus how much of it is what we actually are trying to express.
Precisely. And I think, I just wanted to raise that I think ambition is a very loaded term that we should think very, very deeply about before we use it or think that we sort of support.
Yeah, fair enough. And actually, for the record, the last time I've spoken to people, I speak to people a lot about what they're looking for in a partner, or I used to back in my undergrad days. And ambition never really came up as a concept. Perhaps things were different back then. I haven't really asked anyone of my age that question in a while. Maybe I'll start doing that.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what they say.
Hold them to see whether ambition is a thing. All right, sweet. Should we wrap up then?
Let's do it.
Do we have any interesting insights of the week or funny bits?
I have an interesting insight that came up this week. I'm in the market for a new backpack, which since everyone will have listened to episode 5, they'll know that I think a backpack is a very high measure item. It's something I use every single day for many hours a day. It carries all my belongings. I've had the same backpack for the past 4 or 5 years. It's now sort of broken. I need a new one. And I'm sort of hunting for a backpack. And because it's such a high measure item and it's such an important item in my life, I'm doing a lot of deliberation over which backpack to buy. And I found it very strange how I think in the past I used to think of these things in terms of just the utility they provide, sort of the obvious utility they provide of oh yeah, does it have all the pockets I need? Is it durable and so on? But now I actually care a lot about the sort of the brand and the aesthetic and whether that aesthetic kind of represents me as a person. Because I feel like a backpack is one of those things where I'm going to be carrying it every day. Everyone I meet with socially is going to see it because I always have my backpack. Everyone I meet sort of for business stuff is going to see it because I always have my backpack. And so it's sort of, if there is one item that should represent who I am perfectly, it's the backpack. Okay. And I really care about this. And so I care more about it than I thought I would.
So you care more about the backpack than the kitchen bin? Because it's not like you're carrying the kitchen bin.
Oh yeah, backpack is definitely more high measure than the kitchen bin. But I care more about it representing me in its full form. The design needs to be in line with my life philosophy or something.
It's kind of like a business card.
Yeah, maybe.
Or like a personal website, how everyone has this thing of,
Yeah,
you know, especially if I'm a designer or something, like, my personal website needs to fully represent me in every single way possible. Yeah.
I found that weird. I don't know how others feel about this.
I don't know. I agree. A backpack needs to look good as well as perform good. There was some guy who sent me this like really nice iPad shaped backpack, like, you know, satchel thing that I could carry at work. But it was made out of this like black technical fabric that just didn't look pro. And I emailed him saying that, look, mate, if this was made in leather, I would love it, and I'd be singing its praises to of the rooftops. But the only options were black and cargo pants themed. And I was like, I just would never wear this out.
Did you say to him, I'm looking for something that says Dad likes leather?
Yes.
It's an Arrested Development reference.
And on that note, we shall end this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I'm not actually sure we came to any conclusions there, but oh well. That's not the point. If you have any thoughts, please email us at hi@notoverthinking.com. And if you're listening on any kind of Apple device, then please would you do us a favor and leave us a review on the iTunes store. It really helps out the podcast and helps more people discover it. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.